No one remembered when the Galactic Council last felt fear. The chamber floated above a blue artificial star, wide enough to hold the leaders of 1,000 species. Light bent softly around crystal seats. Ancient banners drifted in the air, symbols of empires that had ruled for millions of years. This was where the galaxy decided its future. Tonight, the council was bored. Reports scrolled across massive holograms. Minor wars, trade disputes, border skirmishes. Nothing new, nothing dangerous. Then a small name appeared on the agenda. Earth. A low ripple of amusement moved through the chamber. One elder leaned back, his voice calm and dismissive. Humanity was old news. A young species from a quiet system near the galactic edge. Loud once, ambitious once, but never powerful. They are irrelevant, another leader said. They have no fleets worth noting. No expansion in centuries. A third laughed softly. They chose isolation. Let them rot in it. The council agreed. The name Earth was marked as low priority. At that exact moment, far from the chamber, a human colony died. It happened in silence. The colony orbited a pale red star, small and peaceful. Families lived there. Children, scientists, farmers. No defenses, no weapons, no reason to fear. An alien strike force arrived without warning. Orbital fire felt like judgment. Cities vanished in seconds. The atmosphere burned away. The planet screamed once, then went quiet. Total loss. No survivors. The alien commanders barely slowed down. It was not even considered a battle. Just expansion. Just cleaning space. Back at the council, a junior observer noticed a missing signal. One light on the galactic map blinked out. Probably a system failure, someone said. The meeting continued. Minutes later, another alert appeared. A human diplomatic channel opened. The council almost ignored it. Almost. A single human representative appeared on the projection. Older, tired eyes, calm face. No anger, no fear. He spoke slowly, clearly, in basic galactic language. A human colony has been destroyed. We request an immediate investigation. We request justice. The chamber was silent for a moment. Then discussion broke out. Some said it was unfortunate. Others said it was unclear who was responsible. A few suggested humans should have defended themselves better. No vote was taken. The channel was closed. The human representative did not argue. He did not threaten. He simply nodded once. On Earth, the response was immediate. Deep beneath the surface of the planet, doors that had not moved in centuries began to open. Ancient systems powered on. Data cores unlocked. Silent machines stretched awake. Across oceans, under mountains, beneath frozen ice, lights turned red. Human leaders gathered in a secure chamber. There was no shouting, no panic, only stillness. A young officer asked the question everyone was thinking. Is it confirmed? An older woman nodded. The colony is gone. All of them. Another voice spoke, quiet but steady. Then phase 1 is over. Someone hesitated. If we do this, there is no going back. The woman looked at the stars on the screen. At the empty space where the colony had been. They crossed the line we warned the galaxy about, she said. The one we hoped would never be tested. On distant alien worlds, sensors began to detect strange movements near human space. Signals that did not match any known drive system. Shadows where ships should not exist. An automated warning flickered across military networks. Unidentified contact, origin, Earth. Back at the Galactic Council, laughter still echoed through the chamber. They had no idea. They had just ignored the last warning humanity would ever give. And somewhere in the dark between stars, something vast, patient, and very human began to move. The first thing the galaxy noticed was not violence. It was silent. For centuries, human space has been noisy in a harmless way. Civilian traffic, trade beacons, research signals, slow and predictable. Even in isolation, Earth had always talked. Data flowed. Messages traveled. Their presence was easy to track. Then, overnight, it all stopped. No broadcasts. No trade pings. No navigation beacons. Human space went dark. At first, the galactic networks assumed a system-wide failure. Solar interference. Internal collapse. It had happened to other young species before. But this was different. The silence was too clean. Long-range scanners swept the region. The stars were still there. The planets still moved. But something was missing. Human ships. Every registered vessel was gone. civilian freighters, research stations. Even old exploration craft were thought to be abandoned decades ago, all missing, as if erased from existence. Concerns spread quietly. In the border systems near human territory, alien patrols increased scans. Officers stared at empty space, uneasy for reasons they could not explain. Then the rumors began. A merchant ship vanished near a trade lane that had been safe for thousands of cycles. No distress call, no debris, just absence. Hours later, a military scout failed to return from a routine jump near the same region. Still no explosion. Still no wreckage. Only silence. Galactic analysts dismissed the early reports. Accidents happened. Space was dangerous. But the disappearances continued. One by one. Always near human space. Always without warning. The expansionist empire, the same one responsible for the destroyed human colony, noticed last. Their fleets were large, proud, and used to fear. They had already claimed the system where the colony once existed, marking it as empty and ready for development. Construction vessels arrived first. They never reported it. A full battle group was sent to investigate. Veteran crews, heavy weapons, advanced sensors. They entered the system together. No one ever heard from them again. The Empire finally sent a formal inquiry to the Galactic Council. Not an accusation. A question. What is happening near Earth? The council chamber filled again, this time without laughter. Reports flooded the chamber. Missing ships. Broken data trails. Gaps in hyperspace telemetry. Patterns that made no sense. A senior strategist spoke carefully. It is possible humanity has developed a new stealth method. Another leader shook his head. Impossible. Their technology level was underestimated. The strategist interrupted. The room fell quiet. Someone finally asked the question no one wanted to say out loud. Could this be retaliation? The idea was uncomfortable. Humanity has always been emotional, yes, but also controlled. They followed treaties, accepted losses, complained loudly, then adapted. They had never responded like this. The council attempted to open a channel to Earth. There was no answer, not even an automated response. On a distant monitoring station, far from political centers, an alien sensor officer noticed something strange. A ripple in space. Not a jump, not a tear. More like a shadow passing through reality. The instruments struggled to read it. Then the shadow was gone. Moments later, the station lost power. Backup systems activated. The officer looked out the viewport just in time to see something impossible. A ship was there. Not emerging. Not arriving. Just there. It was massive, dark, and angular, its surface scarred as if it had survived centuries of battle. No running lights. No visible weapons. No known design language. The officer tried to transmit. The signal never left the station. A single beam of pale light brushed across the hull. The station went silent. Across the galaxy, similar reports appeared, fragmented, incomplete, often cut off mid-sentence. Ships that did not arrive, but appeared. Weapons that did not fire, but ended things. No explosions. No heroic last stands. Just a sudden absence. Fear spreads faster than information. Civilian lanes were abandoned. Borders closed. Fleets recalled. Old enemies declared temporary truces. Still, humanity said nothing. On Earth, the silence was intentional. In a command center buried deep beneath the planet's crust, human officers watched the galaxy through layers of data. Not with excitement. Not with rage. With focus. Each disappearance was logged. Each movement is measured. Each response predicted. A young strategist broke the quiet. They're starting to panic. An older commander nodded. As expected. What about the council? Another asked. They will talk, the commander said. They always do. On the main display, the destroyed colony appeared again. A frozen image. A world burned clean. This is not punishment, the commander continued. This is a demonstration. Outside the room, massive structures moved for the first time in generations. Human ships, older than most alien civilizations, slid free from hidden docks carved into asteroids, moons, and deep space shadows. They were not beautiful. They were not fast. They were inevitable. Each one carried a name, etched deep into the hulls. Names of lost cities, lost wars, lost people. Human history, written in steel. Far from Earth, the expansionist empire finally detected something they could not ignore. A human fleet. It was not approaching from known space. It was already inside their territory. Their sensors screamed warnings. Defense grids powered up. Weapons locked on. The human ships did not maneuver, did not threaten. They simply advanced. An alien admiral demanded identification. No response. He ordered a warning shot. The blast struck a human ship directly. The energy vanished on contact, swallowed as if the attack had never happened. The human fleet did not slow down. Panic rippled through the alien formation. Weapons fired in full volleys now. Beams, missiles, kinetic strikes. Nothing worked. Then, for the first time, the humans responded. Not with words. A single pulse spread outward, quiet, controlled, precise. Alien ships lost power instantly. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Just dead. The admiral watched his fleet drift helplessly. A message finally appeared on every screen. Simple. Humans. Calm. You erased our people without warning. Now you will feel what it is like to be helpless. Across the galaxy, every major power received the same data burst at the same time. Recordings. Timelines. Proof. The destroyed colony. The ignored request for justice. The council's silence. The final line froze entire governments in place. This is not the end. This is us arriving. And for the first time in recorded galactic history, no one spoke. Because everyone understood the same terrifying truth at once. Humanity had not gone to war in anger. Humanity had planned this moment long ago. And whatever came next would not be stopped. The galaxy tried to understand. That was the first mistake. After the human fleet disabled an entire armada without destroying a single ship, every major power activated its intelligence networks. Ancient archives were opened. Forbidden simulations were run. Councils met in emergency sessions that never ended. Nothing fit. Human technology was not faster. Not bigger. Not louder. It was wrong. The pulse that killed the alien fleet left no radiation, no debris, no energy signature that matched known physics. Power systems simply stopped. The reactors did not explode. Crews did not die. The ships were left drifting, perfectly intact, perfectly useless. Engineers across the galaxy replayed the data again and again. There was no weapon they could name. Some called it advanced electronic warfare. Others suggested dimensional interference. A few whispered the word forbidden science. None of them were correct, because the weapon was not built to destroy ships. It was built to end wars. The expansionist empire demanded answers. Their leadership broadcast threats, declarations, and promises of revenge. Their words sounded strong. Their actions did not. Entire sectors of their space began to fail. Not attacked, isolated. Navigation routes vanished from charts. Jump points collapsed into nothing. Supply lines died quietly. Systems were not conquered. They were removed. A human fleet would appear near a star. No warning. No demand. No visible hostility. Then the system would go dark. Every military installation disabled. Every weapons platform is inert. Communications reduced to static. Civilians were left untouched. Power grids rerouted to life support and basic needs only. It was mercy, but it felt like a sentence. The galaxy watched in growing horror as the Empire shrank without a single major battle. At the Galactic Council, panic finally replaced denial. Emergency beacons lit the chamber. Delegates shouted over each other. Old rivals sat side by side, united by fear. One truth had become impossible to ignore. Humanity was not improvising. They were executing something planned long ago. A senior archivist stepped forward, his voice shaking. He had spent centuries studying extinct civilizations. I have seen this before, he said. The chamber fell quiet. In the records of lost species. Those who survived near extinction. Those who learned that open war only leads to ruin. He swallowed. They do not strike first. They do not strike loudly. They remove the ability to fight. The words settled like a weight. Another delegate asked the question everyone feared. How far can they do this? The archivist did not answer immediately. Then he said, as far as they need to. Far from politics, a human ship drifted near a captured system. Inside, the crew moved calmly. No celebrations. No cheering. Just quiet efficiency. A young officer stared at the tactical display. They still haven't adapted, he said. They won't, the captain replied. They're thinking like conquerors. We're thinking like survivors. On a secondary screen, the destroyed colony rotated slowly. The image was always there. A reminder. The captain spoke again, softer now. They think this is our strength. He gestured to the fleet, the dark hulls, the impossible technology. This is not our strength. This is our restraint. In the council chamber, a desperate decision was made. They would confront Earth directly, not with weapons, with truth. A unified transmission was prepared, signed by hundreds of species. An apology was included. Condolences. Promises of reform. The message ended with a plea. Humanity, speak to us. The signal traveled across space, broadcast on every channel known. It reached Earth, and for the first time since the silence began, humanity answered. The response was not a speech. It was history. Across the galaxy, screens lit up with images no one had seen before. Human archives. Wars that burned their own planet. Cities turned to ash by human hands. Oceans poisoned. The sky darkened. Voices narrated the images. Human voices. Calm. Honest. We almost ended ourselves. Scenes of famine. Of evacuation. Of children learning underground while the surface burned. We learned what unchecked power does. Images shifted. Human technology is advancing, not for conquest, but survival. Shields to stop asteroids. Engines to escape dying suns. Weapons, then those weapons being dismantled. We learned that victory means nothing if no one is left. The images changed again. This time, human observers watching alien civilizations rise and fall. Humanity staying silent. Hidden. We watched you repeat our mistakes. The final image appeared. The destroyed colony. No words followed it. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, reactions were immediate and divided. Some felt shame. Some felt fear. Some felt anger. But none could deny the message. Humanity was not claiming superiority. They were explaining why this retaliation was inevitable. In the expansionist empire, a surviving admiral watched his disabled fleet drift endlessly. Supplies were low. Communications were gone. Then a human ship appeared nearby. No weapons active. No threats. A channel opened. A human face filled the screen. Not young. Not old. Tired. You will be escorted out of this system, the human said. Your crews will live. The admiral clenched his mandibles. You could end us, he said. Why don't you? The human paused. Because if we destroy you, he said, someone else will forget the lesson. The channel closed. True to their word, human ships guided the powerless fleet to the edge of the system, then vanished. The admiral realized something then. This was not humiliation. It was education. Back at the Galactic Council, a final report arrived. Sensors had detected something unprecedented. A structure, hidden deep in interstellar space, had activated. Massive, ancient, human in origin. No weapons fire. No movement. Just power. Energy output beyond known limits. A strategist whispered, "What is that?" No one answered. On Earth, the same structure appeared on human displays. Engineers watched carefully. A commander spoke quietly. "They're starting to notice." Another replied, "They were always going to." The commander folded his hands. Then prepare Phase 3. In the void between stars, the massive structure finished powering up. Across the galaxy, instruments failed as space itself seemed to bend around it. No alarms sounded. No explosions followed. Just a feeling, shared by every thinking species at the same time. A realization. Humanity was no longer reacting. They were about to change the rules of the galaxy itself. The structure did not move. That was what frightened them most. It hung in the dark between stars, far from trade lanes and borders, far from any system that mattered, until now. Sensors described it as massive, but the word felt small. Its shape was simple, almost crude, like something built for function alone. No weapons arrays. No engines. No visible defenses. Yet space around it bent, stretched, and misbehaved. Light curved where it should not. Signals arrived late, or early, or not at all. Probes sent too close vanished without impact, without explosion, without trace. The galaxy named it quickly, the human anomaly. Every major power focused its attention on that single point in space. Fleets halted mid-movement. Wars paused. Even pirates avoided entire regions near it, guided by instinct more than logic. At the Galactic Council, fear finally had a voice. A delegate whispered what many were thinking. Is it a weapon? No one answered. Because no one knew. Theories flooded the chamber. Some claimed it was a superweapon capable of destroying stars. Others believed it was a gateway, a doomsday engine, or a prison for something far worse. None of the theories mattered. What mattered was that the structure existed, and humanity had activated it without warning. On Earth, beneath layers of stone and sea, human command watched the same data feeds. Their faces were calm, but the tension was real. A senior scientist spoke softly. "The field is stable. No cascade." "Good," the commander replied. "We only get one chance." A younger officer hesitated. "If this fails." "It won't," the commander said. "We tested it for 200 years. The officer swallowed. "Against ourselves." The room fell quiet. This was the truth no alien archive had ever fully understood. Humanity's greatest weapons were not tested on enemies. They were tested on humanity. Long ago, when Earth nearly destroyed itself, humans learned a lesson written in blood and fire. Power without control was extinction. So they built control first. The structure in space was not designed to kill. It was designed to decide. Across the galaxy, the expansionist empire made a fatal choice. Cornered, humiliated, and stripped of military power, their leadership chose pride over survival. In secret, they activated a forbidden weapon, an ancient stellar destabilizer salvaged from a dead civilization. If they could not win, they would be punished. The device was launched toward a populated system near human-controlled space. A civilian world. Millions of lives. The weapon armed itself. Human sensors detected it instantly. On Earth, alarms rang, not loud, but urgent. A strategist spoke fast. Trajectory confirmed. Civilian target. Another asked the question no one wanted to ask. "Do we intercept?" The commander looked at the display. The human fleets were spread thin, enforcing silence and stability across dozens of systems. "No," she said. Everyone stared at her. "We demonstrate," she continued. Now, the order was given. The structure in deep space changed. Not visibly, not dramatically, but across the galaxy, every instrument registered the same impossible event. Space tightened. The destabilizer weapon vanished mid-flight. Not destroyed, not deflected, removed. The expansionist leadership screamed in disbelief as their weapons simply ceased to exist. Their own sensors confirmed it. The universe had said no. Then the structure spoke. Not in sound, not in language. In physics, a wave spread outward. Not energy, not matter, but authority. Systems across the galaxy felt it. Jump drives failed simultaneously. Weapons shut down. Shields powered off. For exactly 60 seconds, no one could fight anyone. Fleets froze in place. Planetary defenses went blind. Ancient war machines fell silent. Every species felt the same helplessness. Then, just as suddenly, everything returned. No damage. No loss of life. Just memory. At the Galactic Council, no one spoke for a long time. Finally, a single message arrived on all official channels. It carried no threat, no anger, only clarity. "This structure enforces a boundary," the human transmission said. "Within its range, no act of mass destruction is permitted." A pause. "We built it because once, we could not stop ourselves." The message continued, showing data, simulations of galactic wars, projections of extinction curves, timelines ending in darkness. "We will not allow the galaxy to repeat our past." The final line was quiet. "You have mistaken our patience for weakness." Reactions exploded across known space. Some species protested, calling it tyranny. Others demanded humanity dismantle the structure immediately. A few, very few, expressed relief. Because they understood. The galaxy had always been ruled by the strongest weapon. Now it was ruled by the strongest restraint. On the edge of human-controlled space, a small alien world sent a private message to Earth. Their species had nearly been wiped out centuries earlier. No one had intervened. The message was simple. "Will you stop others from doing what was done to us?" Earth replied without delay. Yes. The answer spread faster than fear ever had. Not everyone accepted it. In the shadows, ancient powers stirred. Species older than humanity, quiet and watchful, took note. They had shaped the galaxy before humans learned to walk upright. They had not expected this. One such observer, hidden behind layers of false stars, watched the anomaly carefully. Their kind had ruled through subtle control, through influence and silence. Now, another species has done the same, but openly. The observer sent a single encrypted signal. Humanity has changed the balance. The reply came after a long pause. then the balance will resist. On Earth, long-range sensors detected unfamiliar movements far beyond known space, patterns that did not match any known civilization. The commander studied the data. "So," she said quietly, "they've decided to stop watching." An aide asked who. She did not answer right away. "The ones who thought we were children," she finally said. The human fleets continued their operations, enforcing stability, dismantling weapons, guiding powerless armadas away from conflict zones. Civilians were protected. Borders stabilized. But beneath it all, a deeper tension grew. Humanity had drawn a line across the galaxy, and ancient things did not like lines they did not draw themselves. In the final moments of the report, the camera drifted back to the structure in deep space. Silent, immovable, a monument not to power, but to a choice. And for the first time, the galaxy understood the true reason Earth's retaliation felt so terrifying. Humanity was not fighting to win. They were fighting to make sure no one else ever had to. The galaxy adjusted, not because it wanted to, but because it had to. After the anomaly enforced its boundary, open warfare faded almost overnight. Fleets remained docked. Weapons stayed cold. Even the most aggressive empires paused, uncertain of how far the human boundary truly reached. Peace arrived suddenly, and it was deeply uncomfortable. Trade resumed under heavy caution. Diplomatic channels overflowed with questions no one could answer. What counted as mass destruction? How close could fleets operate? What would trigger intervention? Humanity replied rarely. When they did, their answers were precise. Cold. Measured. Final. The anomaly did not judge intent. It judged the effect. That alone changed everything. On dozens of worlds, generals found themselves useless. Entire military doctrines collapsed overnight. Strategies refined over centuries meant nothing if the final act was no longer allowed. Some leaders adapted. Others did not. On a remote industrial world, far from Earth's patrol routes, an arms consortium attempted to test the limits. They detonated a weapon underground, small by galactic standards, but illegal under the new boundary. The result was instant. The facility vanished. Not exploded. Not burned. Gone. A perfect spherical absence where it once stood. The message was clear. Humanity was not negotiating. Yet for all the fear and restraint spreading through the galaxy, something else began to grow. Resentment. Many species asked the same question in private. Who gave humans the right? They had not been elected. They had not been chosen. They had simply acted. On Earth, the cost of that choice was becoming clear. Human infrastructure strained under the burden of constant enforcement. The anomaly required continuous energy input, drawn from systems humanity had spent generations perfecting. Cities dimmed. Non-essential industries shut down. Exploration projects were suspended indefinitely. Human civilians felt it first. Power rationing became normal. Transport slowed. Entertainment networks went dark for long hours. There were protests. Not violent, but loud. "We didn't choose this," people said. "Why should we suffer for the galaxy? Why are we paying the price?" Human leaders did not silence them. They listened. In one broadcast watched by billions, a human representative stood alone, no banners behind him. "We are paying the price," he said calmly, "because no one else ever did." He showed images, not of the destroyed colony this time, but of ancient alien massacres. Species erased before humanity ever reached the stars. No justice. No memory. No intervention. "We will not add to that list," he finished. The protests quieted. Not because everyone agreed, but because they understood. Elsewhere, not everyone stayed quiet. Beyond the boundary, ancient observers gathered in secrecy. Species older than Earth, whose influence had shaped galactic politics through manipulation rather than conquest. They had watched humanity rise with interest. Now they watched with concern. One such council met within a drifting artificial nebula. Their forms were hidden behind layers of light and distortion. "The humans have frozen the board," one voice said. "And boards are meant to move," another replied. They debated intervention. Not war. Open conflict was no longer possible. Something subtler. Influence. Destabilization. Division. If humanity could not be stopped directly, perhaps it could be turned inward. Across dozens of worlds, rumors began to spread. Humans were hoarding power. Humans were weakening the galaxy. Humans were planning something worse. False reports circulated of human fleets preparing mass relocations. of secret weapons hidden beyond the anomaly, of plans to decide which species deserve to survive. None of it was true, but fear does not need truth. On Earth, intelligence analysts noticed the pattern quickly. This isn't random, one said. Someone is pushing the narrative. The commander who had overseen the retaliation nodded slowly. Then they're scared, she said. Good. But her expression did not soften. Find the source. The search did not take long. Data threads pointed beyond known space, toward regions humanity had never mapped. Places deliberately avoided by earlier explorers due to strange sensor failures and ancient warnings. The observers were no longer hiding well. They're testing us, an analyst said. Seeing how far we'll go. The commander considered that. Then we don't go far, she replied. We go honest. A new transmission was prepared, broadcast openly, without encryption, to every corner of the galaxy. This time, it was not history. It was a vulnerability. Human leaders spoke of the cost, of the systems draining, of the strain on their people, of the real possibility that Earth could not maintain the anomaly forever. We are not gods, the message said. We are tired. Gasps rippled across alien worlds. We did not build this to rule. The transmission continued. We built it to buy time. Time for diplomacy to replace domination. Time for laws to replace fear. Time for memory to replace repetition. If the galaxy chooses to return to the old ways, the message ended. We will not stop you forever. But while we stand, we will stand together. The response was unexpected. Small species answered first. Those who had never mattered to the great powers. Those who had survived by hiding, paying tribute, or staying silent. They offered support, energy contributions, material aid, shared infrastructure. One by one, worlds pledged resources, not to humanity, but to the anomaly itself. A shared burden, a shared line. The ancient observers watched this development with growing unease. Humanity was no longer alone. Worse, they were inspiring cooperation without conquest. That was dangerous. One observer spoke quietly. If this continues, we lose control. Another replied. Then we force a failure. Plans were set in motion. Subtle ones. Not attacks, but pressures designed to overload the anomaly. Conflicts engineered just below the threshold. Simultaneous crises meant to stretch human response too thin. On Earth, simulations began to show troubling outcomes. The margin is shrinking, a scientist warned. If they push hard enough, we won't be able to enforce everywhere. The commander closed her eyes briefly. Then we don't enforce it everywhere, she said. That drew attention. We enforce where it matters. Maps shifted. Priority zones were marked, not by power, but by population density. Civilian worlds. Refugee corridors. Cradle planets. Let the empires posture. The innocents would be protected. As the galaxy entered this uneasy new phase, one truth became clear to those watching closely. Humanity was bleeding strength to keep the galaxy from bleeding lives. And someone, somewhere, was preparing to see how much blood humans were willing to lose before they finally stopped standing still. The stillness held, for now, but cracks were forming. And in the silence between stars, ancient minds sharpened their focus. Because the next test would not be about power. It would be about endurance. The first crack did not look like violence. It looked like paperwork. A border dispute between two mid-tier empires flared just below the anomaly's threshold. No planet killers. No mass drivers. Just fleets maneuvering close to civilian trade routes. Weapons charged, but not fired. Human monitors flagged it immediately. This is intentional, an analyst said. They're daring us to intervene. The commander studied the projection. Millions of civilians depended on that corridor. If the fleets clashed, even conventional weapons would cause catastrophic loss. Redirect enforcement, she ordered. The anomaly's field adjusted. Drive stalled. Weapons powered down. The corridor went still. The crisis ended without a shot. Across the galaxy, something else shifted. The ancient observers marked the response time. Note the energy spike. Calculated the drain. They smiled. If the motion of their kind could be called that. On Earth, the consequences arrived hours later. Entire regions lost power. Arcologies dimmed. Climate control systems dropped to a minimum. Hospitals switched to reserves. No one panicked. Humans had trained for this. But the strain was undeniable. Engineers worked without sleep, rerouting energy, squeezing efficiency from systems already near their limit. Every successful intervention now came with a visible cost back home. Children learned to do homework by using emergency lighting. Factories slowed. Transit systems ran half-empty. Still, Earth held the line. Then the observers escalated. 3 crises ignited at once, on opposite sides of the galaxy. Each one carefully engineered to stay just under the anomaly's rules while maximizing civilian risk. Human command went silent. Not from indecision. From calculation. The commander addressed her staff. "We can't cover all 3, she said. "If we try, the field collapses." Silence filled the room. An officer asked the question no one wanted to voice. "So, which one do we let burn?" The commander did not answer immediately. Instead, she brought up 3 images. 3 worlds. Different species. Different politics. Same vulnerability. She spoke slowly. "We choose the one we can reach fastest," she said. "Then the one with the highest population density." "And the third?" someone asked. The commander looked away from the screen. "We warn them," she said quietly. "And we tell them the truth." The warning went out. Unfiltered, unpolished. "We cannot intervene in time. Evacuate if you can. This is not abandonment. This is a limitation." The message spread fast. Too fast. Fear exploded across the third world. Evacuation ships overloaded. Infrastructure buckled. Millions were trapped by geography, poverty, or simple bad luck. The conflict ignited anyway. Conventional weapons tore through cities. Orbital debris rained fire. It was not extermination, but it was slaughter. Human sensors tracked every death. On Earth, people watched the feeds in silence. This was the moment the ancient observers had been waiting for. Proof. Humanity could not save everyone. Whispers spread instantly. They lied. They choose favorites. They're no different. The observers amplified the voices, feeding outrage into every network, every rumor mill. On Earth, protests returned, but this time they were different. Not angry. Broken. "We believed you," people said. "You said never again." The commander watched the casualty numbers climb. Her hands trembled, for the first time since this began. She stood. "Prepare a public address," she said. Advisors hesitated. Now, she repeated, before the lie spreads further. The broadcast went live across the galaxy. No podium, no flags, no distance. Just a human woman, standing in a dim room, eyes tired and red. "We failed," she said. The word hit harder than any weapon. "We failed to save them," she continued. "And that failure will follow us forever." She did not justify. She did not explain it away. "We built the anomaly because we learned, too late, that power without limits destroys everything. But limits mean choices. And choices mean loss." She paused, steadying herself. "We will not pretend otherwise." The observers listened carefully. This was not what they expected. The commander went on. "We could have chosen to let the field collapse. We could have allowed every war, every weapon, every extinction to return at once." She leaned closer to the camera. "We chose not to." The broadcast shifted. Live feeds from Earth appeared. Hospitals running on backup power. Engineers sleeping on floors. Civilians sharing heat, food, and light. "We are not asking the galaxy to trust us," she said. "We are asking you to stand with us, or stand alone." Then she said the sentence that changed everything. "If the burden is too heavy for one species," she said, "then it should never have been carried by one species." The broadcast ended. For a long moment, the galaxy was silent. Then responses began to arrive. Not from empires. From people. Dockworkers rerouted power from luxury sectors. Scientists volunteered their world's reactors for shared load. Civilian fleets offered logistics, evacuation capacity, medical aid. It was messy, inefficient, slow. It was cooperation. The anomaly's energy curve stabilized, not because humanity pushed harder, but because others began to push with them. The ancient observers watched in growing alarm. This was the worst outcome. A galaxy united by shared restraint was uncontrollable. One observer spoke sharply. "End this. Now." They initiated their final measure. Hidden assets activated across multiple systems at once. Not weapons, but disruptors designed to interfere with the anomaly's control field. Not enough to destroy it. Enough to make it unstable. On Earth, alarms screamed. "The field is desynchronizing," a scientist shouted. "They're attacking the rules." The commander snapped orders. Countermeasures. Isolate interference. We can't be isolated everywhere, someone replied. If we focus, the field holds. If we spread, it collapses, the commander finished. She made the decision instantly. Focus, she said. A third of the galaxy went dark. Not attacked. Unprotected. Wars reignited in those regions almost immediately. The observers believed they had won. Humanity had finally broken. But they had misunderstood one final thing. Humanity had never intended to stand forever. They had intended to teach. As conflicts flared, something remarkable happened. Worlds that had received protection earlier did not rush to exploit the chaos. They intervened. They negotiated. They enforced restraint locally. They used the time humanity had bought them. Not perfectly, but enough. The commander watched reports stream in, some grim, some hopeful. They're doing it, an officer said quietly. The commander nodded. That was always the point. The anomaly stabilized, smaller in reach, but stronger in principle. The observers fell silent. Their plan had failed. Humanity has not proven weak. They had proven something far more dangerous. That a species could choose to bleed, openly, visibly, rather than rule through fear. And that choice was spreading. In the ruins of the Third World, survivors rebuilt with help from neighbors who had never spoken to them before. They remembered who had warned them, who had tried, who had admitted failure instead of hiding it. The lesson burned deep. The galaxy would never forget this moment, because this was when everyone understood the truth behind Earth's retaliation. It was never about domination. It was about teaching a violent universe how to stop, even when stopping hurt. And somewhere beyond the stars, ancient minds began to retreat, not because they were defeated, but because they finally understood something they had never believed possible. Humanity was willing to lose, as long as the galaxy learned how not to destroy itself. The wars that reignited did not spread the way they used to. That was the first sign. In the regions where the anomaly no longer reached, fleets did clash. Shots were fired. Stations burned. Old grudges resurfaced like scars torn open. But something was different. Worlds that had once waited for orders now hesitated. Commanders paused before giving firing commands. Civilian leaders demanded evacuation corridors before any strike. They remembered the stillness. They remembered what it felt like when the galaxy had been forced to stop, and what it had revealed about themselves. On Earth, the anomaly's reduced field held steady. Smaller, weaker, but stable. Human command watched the galaxy breathe again, uneven and dangerous, yet no longer blind. A young analyst broke the quiet. They're not escalating. The commander looked up. Who? All of them, the analyst replied. Conflicts are stalling. They're talking, arguing, threatening, but they're not crossing the old lines. The commander closed her eyes briefly. Good, she said. Then the lesson stuck. But the cost was not over. Human infrastructure was near collapse. The shared energy contributions helped, but Earth had given more than anyone else. Systems were worn thin. Ships overdue for maintenance stayed deployed. And the people felt it. Generations had grown up believing Earth would never kneel, never bleed openly again. Now they saw the truth. Humanity was not invincible. Humanity was enduring. In the Galactic Council chamber, something unprecedented happened. The Council reconvened, not under threat, not in panic, but in silence. No banners, no power displays, no laughter. The seats filled slowly. Species that had never spoken openly before took places beside ancient rivals. For the first time, no one argued about status. They argued about responsibility. A delegate from a small, nearly forgotten species spoke first. We survived because humans intervened, they said. But we cannot keep asking them to carry this alone. Others followed. We benefited from the stillness. We learned from it. We failed before, but we can change. An older empire resisted. You want to rewrite the galaxy because humans frightened you, their representative said. A response came immediately, from a species older still. No, they said quietly. We want to rewrite it because humans showed us we could. The debate lasted days, but it did not end in a stalemate. It ended in agreement. The council voted, unanimously, not to give humanity control, but to take responsibility themselves. A new framework was proposed, not enforced by a single structure, but by collective action, shared monitoring, mutual enforcement, consequences agreed upon in advance. No secret weapons, no hidden expansions, no forgotten colonies. Humanity would not rule the system. Humanity would advise it. The message was sent to Earth. In the command chamber, human leaders read it in silence. An officer asked softly, "Is this real?" The commander allowed herself a small, tired smile. "It's late," she said. "But yes." Across the galaxy, ancient observers watched the vote with something like disbelief. This was not resistance. This was surrender, not to humanity, but to an idea. One observer spoke with quiet anger. "They are giving up chaos." Another replied, colder, "They are giving up control." The observers withdrew further, pulling their influence back into the dark spaces beyond known stars. They had thrived in uncertainty, in division. There was no place for them here anymore. On Earth, the anomaly powered down further. Not shut off, placed in reserve. Its presence remained, a reminder, not a threat. Human fleets began to return home. Slowly, carefully. Many ships would never fly again. Some crews would never be the same. There were no victory parades, only quiet reunions. A veteran captain stepped onto Earth's soil after years in space. He removed his insignia and placed it into a memorial wall alongside millions of names. The destroyed colony was there. It always would be. Children across Earth and alien worlds alike began learning a new chapter of history, not titled the war, but the stillness. They learned how the galaxy had been forced to stop and what it chose to do next. Years passed. The galaxy did not become peaceful overnight. Disputes still happened. Violence still flared. But extermination never returned. The idea itself had become unacceptable. On the edge of known space, a new exploration vessel launched, jointly crewed by humans and half a dozen other species. Its mission was not expansion. It was understanding. The commander, older now, watched the launch from a quiet observation deck. An aide asked her, "Do you think it was worth it?" She did not answer right away. She looked at the stars, at the places where humanity had bled, at the places where others had learned. "Yes," she said finally. "Because they're standing now." "Standing?" the aide asked. "With us," the commander replied. Far beyond sensors, the ancient observers faded into irrelevance. They had shaped the galaxy through fear and silence for ages. But fear had changed hands. Not as a weapon, as a memory. The memory of what happens when power goes unchecked, and of the species that chose to stop the galaxy, not to rule it, but to give it a chance to grow up. In the stillness between stars, ships moved again, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as equals. And for the first time in its long, violent history, the galaxy did not move because it was forced to. It moved because it chose to. Long after the anomaly was placed into reserve, long after the Council rewrote its laws and fleets learned to hesitate, the galaxy kept changing. Not loudly, quietly. That was how real change happened now. The joint systems of enforcement, once unthinkable, began to mature. They were imperfect, sometimes slow, sometimes wrong, but they existed, and that alone reshaped behavior. No single species held absolute power, not even humanity, and that was the point. On Earth, the strain finally began to ease. Cities brightened again. Power grids stabilized. Children slept without emergency lights humming above them. But something had changed in the human psyche. They did not celebrate the return of comfort. They remembered how close they had come to losing it all, again. Memorials were raised, not just for the destroyed colony, but for every moment humanity had failed to intervene in the past. Names carved in stone, metal, and light. Not to glorify suffering, to make forgetting impossible. Human schools taught a new core lesson, one that surprised alien observers. Power is temporary. Memory is responsibility. The galaxy noticed. Other worlds began doing the same. Small species first, then larger ones. Then, finally, ancient powers that had once believed themselves above such things. Across hundreds of systems, monuments appeared, not to victories, but to restraint. Not everyone approved. There were still those who whispered that the galaxy had grown weak. That fear of consequences had replaced ambition. That someone, someday, would break the rules again. Human analysts agreed with them. "Someone always does," one said during a quiet briefing. The commander, now older, her hair streaked with gray, nodded. "That's why we didn't erase the anomaly," she replied. She gestured to a hologram of the structure, still drifting silently in deep space. "We didn't build it to last forever," she said. "We built it to be remembered." Years later, That memory would be tested. On the far edge of known space, beyond where maps grew uncertain, a rising power emerged. Not ancient, not patient, young, fast, and hungry. They conquered aggressively, efficiently. At first, the galaxy watched nervously, but something unexpected happened. Their neighbors did not wait for Earth to intervene. They organized. Sanctions were imposed within days. Trade routes closed. Cooperative defense forces assembled, not to annihilate, but to contain. The rising power laughed. Until their expansion stalled. Until their allies vanished. Until they found themselves isolated, not by force, but by refusal. They sent a message to Earth. Not a threat. A question. Will you stop us? Earth replied with a single sentence. You are stopping yourselves. The message spread. For the first time, a would-be conqueror collapsed without a galactic war. Humanity watched, but did not act. And that was their greatest success. As decades passed, the story of Earth's retaliation became something else. It stopped being a warning. It became a reference point. When a leader proposed extreme action, advisors asked, is this another stillness moment? When weapons research crossed ethical lines, scientists asked, would this wake the anomaly? Even species who had once hated humanity now taught the story to their children. Not as propaganda. As a caution. The commander retired quietly. No ceremony. No speeches. Just a small note released to the public. We did what we could. The rest was never ours to control. She spent her final years watching ships leave Earth's orbit. Exploration vessels, diplomatic envoys, shared science missions. Humanity returned to what it had always done best when it chose not to destroy itself. Curiosity. One evening, as Earth's sun dipped below the horizon, a message arrived from the deepest monitoring array. The ancient observers, those who had retreated, were gone. Not hiding. Gone. No traces. No signals. No shadows behind stars. Whether they had fled or faded, no one knew. The galaxy debated it endlessly. Earth did not. Because the commander's final briefing still echoed in their archives. If something survives by control alone, she had said, it cannot survive a galaxy that learns to choose. The anomaly remained where it was. Silent. Watching. But it was no longer the heart of galactic stability. It was a relic. A reminder of a moment when everything almost broke and didn't. Centuries later, long after those who remembered the retaliation firsthand were gone, a historian stood before a gathered audience on a distant world. They spoke of the day humanity was ignored, of the colony that burned, of the silence that followed. And at that moment the galaxy stood still. A student raised a hand. Why didn't humans take control when they could? The student asked. They were the strongest. The historian paused. Because they remembered what happened the last time someone thought strength was enough. Another student asked, what if no one had listened? The historian smiled sadly. Then the galaxy would still be loud, they said, and much emptier. The lesson endured. Humanity did not become legends because they were unstoppable. They became legends because they stopped and made everyone else stop with them. In the endless dark between stars, ships still traveled. Disagreements still happened. Life was still fragile. But genocide was no longer routine. Extinction was no longer background noise. And whenever someone asked why the galaxy was different from the one in the old archives, the answer was always the same. Because once, when humanity was pushed too far, Earth did not scream. Earth did not rush. Earth stood still. And in that stillness, the galaxy finally learned to listen.